Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today on Soul Empowerment, down-to-earth tips, insights, and inspiration for an empowered life. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach. I am an author and a speaker, and I just love bringing new wisdom to people in so many different ways, and I'm so excited today to be starting up this inaugural episode of our new show, which we're calling the Aware Soul, and it's going to be some really amazing stuff. But before I go any further, I'd like to just have my guest hosts, actually my co-host is what I meant to say, introduce themselves, and since you're over on my right there, Nancy, I will ask you to go ahead and speak first.
Well, okay. I am Nancy Stevens. I am a fun-loving member of the Wellness Universe. I have a variety of hats. I teach a lot of mind-body classes at early mornings, and then I put on another hat. I'm a core blogger for the Wellness Universe. Get to be here today presenting. I am a intuitive life coach and a speaker. So those are the hats I wear, and on the side, I'm a mom to 4 boys and a husband, and life is always crazy and going to many different miles at any given time in my house.
Is your husband one of the 4 boys?
I'm sure he is.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And Stephanie, how would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us about you.
My name is Stephanie Benedetto Padovani, which is a mouthful, and if you can say it, you'll get bonus points. I help creative entrepreneurs, coaches, therapists, and healers to craft an irresistible message that is designed to attract their ideal clients with soul-aligned marketing. So that's marketing that lights you up and doesn't make you want to throw up. I am also...
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm working on that, right? Oh, here comes the bounce again. There it is. So I'm also a soul storyteller who helps people transform their lives with the power of story, also using play and curious questions, sometimes provocative questions, and the power of possibilities. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm very excited to be here.
Mm-hmm. It's just so awesome to be here with both of you. I think, I know we all met at different versions of Soul Treat, and we've had other opportunities to exchange ideas. And I'm thrilled that you're here. I feel like we've created a kind of a really nice heart connection, and I'm feeling really jazzed about doing this series with you and see where it goes and what kind of stuff we can create. And I think the idea of awareness, which for me personally, it's one of the core foundational pieces of all of what I teach in life mastery. And awareness is just something that we all kind of came to, and then this idea of the aware soul just kind of seemed to bubble up, and I really like that concept. And so I'd like to know, what does that mean to you? What does the aware soul mean to you? And just whenever you feel like talking, talk.
Well, that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, David, is like, what is awareness? And as I was contemplating this, I actually looked up the definition, at least according to the Google. And
the Google.
That's right. Oh, I know. That originally was a really lame thing that parents said, adding the in front of Google, and now it's become a joke. But if it makes me sound like an ass, well, so be it. So awareness, according to Google, is knowledge or perception of a situation or fact. So what would an aware soul be? Would be perhaps aware of what's happening in your soul, knowledge or perception about what's actually happening in your soul and the creation of your life.
Yeah. That's I like that. That's good. Mm-hmm. Nancy, what do you think?
For me, it's very similar to yours. I think for me, it means really listening to and paying attention to what's going on at any given moment beneath the surface to your psychological state, your emotional state, seeking to be aware of why it is you are reacting or how you want to respond. I'm always really curious about the emotional fabric that goes into any situation on any given time. So
what is the benefit of that? Like, I'd love to explore, like, why should we care? We have so many things going on in our lives. Why should we care about being aware, and we're aware of our soul specifically?
Well, that's great. I was actually going to go there myself.
And I stole your thunder.
No, you didn't. No, there is no thunder. There's no thunder to steal. But the idea to me is, I have this belief that my soul is always aware all the time about everything. And it's my ego mind that gets in the way. My ego mind prevents me from necessarily hearing what my soul has to say. Now, I think this is true for a lot of people. We get caught up in our thoughts and our activities and, you know, stuff that's going on in our life in the world that we just kind of forget to sit down, get quiet, get present, and just listen, you know. And so, and the soul also, it's I think my spirit, all spirits in general, and we're all connected, by the way, I think our souls are intended to keep guiding us, but they're not going to force us to do anything. So the soul isn't saying, hey, you better do this or else kind of stuff. That's ego talk. If you hear that sort of thing happening, it's ego talk. So what I think the benefit is well, I think we need to pose a different question in front of that. And that is, how do we connect to our soul first? And then why would we want to? I think those are the two key questions that go together. And how do we connect with our soul? Well, that's a difficult one to answer because most of us are so caught up in our heads anyway. So,
we're disconnected from our soul?
I'm sorry, we're what?
Connected from our souls? If we have to connect, does that mean we're disconnected?
From a perceptual level, yes. From the perspective of our ego minds, absolutely. In fact, the ego mind thinks we're separate from everything. And that's a real interesting point, and I'm glad you brought that up. So the thing is, what we need to do is tame the ego mind, get the ego mind under control, and so instead of being the master of our lives, it becomes a servant. And the only way we can do that is by bringing awareness, our own conscious awareness, to the truth of our soul, and then understand that we are already connected. It was never actually separated in the first place. So the disconnection is merely an illusion of the ego mind.
Yeah, that I've been kind of delving into my own work on soul level work, the aware soul, and I kind of agree that we were all born with our soul and psyche intact, but it's according to all the different interchange in the fabric of our life. At whatever point that is, we were meant to, again, find a little bit of awareness to then dropping us out of the ego mind or that external living into learning how to respond. For a big deal for me, as I beginning to tap into living in essence with my soul more, is noticing if I'm always feeling controlled by external things or always reacting. If I'm always reacting, trying to compete or compare or defend or deflect, how am I going to really get down to the essence of what it means to live fully? And so for me, I had to be really aware of triggers in day-to-day stuff and pause when I start to feel that old habit of reacting or saying the same old thing, and really learning how to respond. Like, oh, what's coming from this? What do I need or want, or what needs to come out here? And it can be really challenging because we're so used to having that well-worn habit pattern of thoughts or responses. So that's a big lesson that I'm learning, is responding. And by doing that, really learning what is the essence of what my soul is giving me to bring forth into the world.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what do you look a little perplexed there. I'm wondering what you're thinking.
That's just my thinking. my face gets a very like, I'm really thinking look when I'm pondering. And actually what was it that I was just considering? What you were saying, Nancy, brought up for me that one of the things that happens with awareness is that when I'm aware of what's happening in the moment, it allows me to be present and mindful, and I realize that I'm already there. So it's kind of like when I'm thinking about it, it's something I need to do or someplace I need to get to. But when I just step back, is it stepping back? When I drop in, it's more like dropping in than stepping back, then, I just become aware of what's happening without needing to be anywhere else, without needing to change anything. And this helps me, at least this is for me, how I can start to recognize the connection that's always there.
Yeah.
Because if I'm trying to get it out there, right? Like, and that's to your point, Nancy, that's a beautiful sign that like we're not in that state of awareness. We're not recognizing that connection that is when we're reacting to external things, blaming or focusing on something on the outside.
Yeah.
I like your, Stephanie, I like your perspective on the idea of stepping back. And I think there's a powerful metaphor in there. The idea of, well, if I step back, then I can just observe. I become the observer. I see what's going on. And that observational perspective makes it easier for me to simply be aware without judgment. It allows me to recognize what's going on within the thing I'm looking at, which could be myself, or it could be my surroundings, it could be my feelings, it could be whatever it is I'm looking at. And just simply being there and just noticing. And that noticing is a great word, because it doesn't carry any judgment at all. It's just, hey, I'm noticing stuff. And if we can look at, okay, here's what I'm doing, here's what's happening around me. I look at my own situation. I look at the environment that I'm in. I look at all the circumstances that are going on in my life. And then I bring the focus closer and closer and closer down in here. And I start noticing, okay, what am I feeling about all of that? What are my emotions that are going on? Am I feeling fear? Am I feeling happiness? Am I feeling sadness? What's going on? And not judging it, just simply noticing it again. And then once I have that understanding of what I'm feeling, the next thing I do is I try to look at the inside of my head from the outside, in that metaphorical way that you were talking about. And I ask myself, so what am I thinking? What are the thoughts that are going through my head right now? What are these ideas, the concepts, beliefs, judgments? What's all that stuff going on? And can I just simply observe it without adding further judgment to it? And that's really what I think awareness is just being so aware of everything, kind of to the definition that you gave us at the beginning, being aware of everything, but not putting any spin or writing any story about it or making anything up about it. Simply observing it and just trying to be with what it is.
That's the whole challenge of life, because there's a certain point, if we're fortunate, that we get to go where you're at. And I know for me, I think you and I have talked when I was on your show that I was not there. I had no idea that I wasn't even there. I just was living the best I could, reacting all that external stuff. But something occurred that was meant to occur that began to bring that little bit of awareness that there is more going on well beneath the surface. And it was ultimately up to me to be really curious about that and begin to little by little go down that path, or I guess knowingly or unknowingly ignore that or deny it. So there is a certain point that you're like, oh, wow, I really am starting to feel a little bit more that's going on. And like you said, begin to learn how to, and that's really hard because we all have judging things every moment. So getting to get to that state, that I think is the essence of the aware of the soul taking over and really becoming more full of all of your life. That little point there.
So I'm wondering, and this is what just came to mind for me. So if anyone, if either of you would like to share like your story of awareness, of becoming aware, of that journey of awareness, and also for anyone who's listening, if you'd like to share in the chat a little bit about any questions that you've had about awareness or insights you've had about awareness, please feel free to participate. And on that note, because I'm springing this question upon you, I'll share that, I've had a journey of where I started actually thinking about awareness probably about 2 years ago. I never really thought about it before that. It was just, I was aware of what I was aware of, and I never thought about the things that I wasn't or might not be aware of. And I started, that's not entirely true. Like, I actually have been on a journey of self-discovery for as long as I can really remember, even as a kid. But a couple of years ago, I started thinking about what is awareness? What am I aware of? What can I be aware of? What else can I be aware of? And I started asking those types of questions, and a whole depth of awareness, an expansiveness opened up for me. And I was like, oh my God, like I can be aware of things happening in myself, in my body, in my emotions, my thinking. I can be aware of things happening in other people that I shouldn't be able to know. Okay. So like, how do I know this? It's just awareness. It's just communication. It's an expansion that happens of perception, like an ability to connect with things that I didn't know I could connect with. Now, before that can go down this whole rabbit hole, right? I take that as information, not fact. Like awareness is interesting because it changes. So like I always wanted to think of awareness as a fixed thing. Like this is how it is. Like I say, oh, how do I feel about David? Who is David as a person, let's say? And I have this. Yeah, I have this awareness of David, right? But then I make a choice to talk to him, or he had some action, and then I have new awareness. Oh, this is David being David now. And it changes, and it might be quite different. But that doesn't mean that the initial awareness was wrong. And so I was like, all right, hold on a second. How can awareness change and not be wrong? Like, what do you guys think about that? That's a can of worms, I think, but it's very interesting to me.
Oh, well, I do have an answer, but I can see Nancy's got something going. I'm going to go ahead, Nancy.
How can awareness change but not be wrong? I don't think, well, here's what I'm learning, that it's this really not right or wrong. It's just what your perception in the moment is based on if you're having a good day or a bad day or feeling vulnerable or afraid. Yeah, I really, and that's interesting because what you're saying, it literally personally happened in my life, that I had the opportunity to react, defend, and deflect, or learn how to respond. And by doing so, making the note of my self-awareness that what occurred wasn't right or wrong. It was the truth in the moment. It was that person's truth, and I had my own. And so I guess that's a big deal. Like, it's just not black and white. There's so many different layers and complexities to this that I think self-awareness, where I'm at right now, there we go, is being really open to what's taking place right now, knowing that it's not going to be right or wrong because we all have our own version of our own truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tend to agree with that, and I want to get back to Stephanie's question.
Yeah.
First of all, I honestly don't think at the biggest level, I don't think awareness changes at all. I think what happens is we've got all that is out there. It's out there. I mean, and it's in here, it's out there. I mean, we're part of it. what we are experiencing in our physical lives is limited, unfortunately, by our, our physical senses, our ego minds, all those things. And so everything that we imagine is pretty much all based on perception, as Nancy said. So as I shift perception, it appears that the world around me is changing, but it isn't. The world is just the same as it was before. It's just my angle of view has changed. And I like what Journey said here in his share about journaling, the idea that there are layers. And I know this is true for me too. As I was, becoming more and more self-aware, I would keep uncovering layers, and I say, wait, that's not really true about me. That's not who I am. I would uncover that, and I'd get down and down and down. I said, well, when the hell do I find out who I really am? It took a long time for me to understand that who I really am is actually all of those things and not just one of those things. See, it took me a long time to realize that I am all that is. You are all that is. We are all that is. We're all connected. And now I see it everywhere I look. Some people don't agree with me, and that's okay. They're at a different state of they're at a different state of awareness for themselves, and that's okay. It's not wrong. It's just different. And so I look at it as each of us is at our own level of consciousness, our own level of awareness, and we can see things that people at a lower level of awareness maybe cannot see. And then there are people at a higher level of awareness who can see things that we can't yet see. Mm-hmm. This is just our process of spiritual evolution. And to me, that's kind of what we're talking about here with this whole concept of the aware soul. The soul will give us all this information if we simply pause and listen. That's my view.
I like that. And what comes to mind with what you shared is learning to be really comfortable that I am changing, that I don't know. Like being comfortable and not like, oh, I should have this figured out. I need to have this definition. This needs to be here. How about being comfortable that at any given moment, I'm going to change. Something's going to change. Something will open up with me and letting go, like trusting the process. That's been a big deal in my life. Being comfortable, learning how to be comfortable with, you know what? I don't know. I don't have the best answer. I can maybe apply the answer to what I think is going to work best for me and my personality, but big picture, I don't know. And I'm comfortable with that because now I'm going to be able to take in more and learn more and process more. And that's
great, because now you're starting to talk about what I think Stephanie asked right early at the beginning of the show, like, why would we want to do this? What are the benefits? So there's one. It sounds like what you're talking about is you learn more. And the way I interpret learn more is essentially become more aware of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's how I interpret the word learn. And so what do you think, Stephanie? What do you think are the benefits of doing this effortless or this work around becoming more self-aware and soul-aware?
So as I've been sitting with this idea of awareness, I realize that I can only be aware of what I'm aware of, but I can ask questions, and I can ask, what am I not aware of? And when I do that, it allows me to see sometimes my blind spots. So if I have a lot of unconscious programming or patterns that I'm not aware of, that are just sort of playing out, when I become aware of them, oh, now I can see the path to choice. I can see something different. When I become aware of what's happening around me, it's sort of like, do you ever hear of that experiment they've done where, and you can actually do this yourself, if you have a picture, you have everyone look at a picture, or you're doing a presentation, you need to put up a PowerPoint and say, okay, I want you to look for all the red objects in this picture. And so everybody focuses on it and tries to memorize the red objects, and the picture goes away. Okay, what blue objects did you see, right? Like, what were they aware of in that moment? They were looking for the red, and they missed the blue, and they missed the purple, and they missed whatever else was there. So by asking that question, what else can I see? What am I unaware of? And in particular, I could ask a question like, what am I unaware of that when I become aware of will allow me to create what I truly desire in my life? Like, holy cow, now I'm going to see something really different than what I was just seeing automatically before.
Right. That's great. I like that. It's beautiful.
And maybe that is an encouraging point for all of us to know that at any given time where we are is just that, and that we all have the ability to stick our necks out, be uncomfortable, and look beyond, like begin to look beyond for the meaning of what's going on now. There's meaning in that. And how can we begin to look beyond that and expand that? Like you said, become more self-aware, maybe from a positive way. More good is coming from where I'm at.
Right.
Yeah.
So is it time to do what we've promised and bring some of this stuff, this good, juicy stuff down to earth? Because I am just dying to know, how can I become more aware? We've kind of started talking about it a little bit already, and I saw that Journey had talked about journaling. That's very poetic, Journey. I love it. So like journaling as a process of writing down what's happening and then looking at it and then seeing in a different way from a different perspective. But what do you guys think? Like, how can we raise our awareness? What specifically can we do to cultivate this?
Yeah, I think we've been sort of touching on it throughout this conversation. I don't think we've itemized specific steps.
Let's itemize.
Okay,
something.
You like lists. I hear that. What I'm interpreting from your statement is you like lists.
Well,
and
I like specifics because I'm thinking like, all right, let's just pretend I've never even heard of awareness before, and I'm just realizing like, holy smokes, this may be something that would be beneficial for me. Where do I start? Like, that would be my question. Like, okay, I want to be more aware.
Sorry, you're going to give me a heart attack here. So, all right. So, what is the first step in becoming aware? That would be the first. What's the first thing that you'd have to do in order to become aware? Oh, I see somebody raising her hand. What is that, Stephanie?
I think, okay, this is just what I'm thinking. This is what comes up for me, is the very first step is willingness. Willingness to be aware. Willingness to look for something new. Yeah, Journey says the first step is admitting that you're unaware, right? Like, okay, there's a lot that I don't know. That's really good point. Thank you. I like that.
All right, but how do you know? No, wait, now, hold on. I'm not going to let that pass.
What?
How do you know you're not aware?
Notice.
How do you know?
Yeah, like,
see, we look at this is the problem that most people have in the world. We're all out there living our lives, doing the best we can, imagining that we're following all the rules and doing everything that we're supposed to be doing in order to achieve the things we need to achieve, in order to have the best life we can have. And yet, 95% of us come to the finish line saying, what the hell was that? That's not what I signed up for. You know, and a lot of people end up on their deathbed saying, I wish I had done more of this, because now they know what they didn't do. So the question is, how do we get people to understand that the humdrum, you know, hamster wheel of life is not the way to go? You have to know who you really are. How do you get people to become aware of that very fact, so that they can now begin asking the questions, well, what is it I'm unaware of? Do you see what I'm saying? Something has to happen in life in order for people to be willing to get to that spot. And usually it's some kind of crisis that's going to start that process. And for some people, myself included, it's not going to be one crisis. It's not going to be two crises. It's going to be a whole shitload of crises that just, you know, come down on top of me before I finally wake up and realize I got to do something. So that's what happened to me. And it happened, you know, by the time I was in my 40s. So I started becoming aware of the fact that I was very angry about my life. That was my first signal, my first wake-up call. And when I realized that that anger was getting so strong and so leaky that it was, coming out and hurting other people, that's when I knew I had to do something. Now, not everybody's journey is going to be like that. Some people may be very lucky and have someone out there who's guiding them to learn from a very early age. I wish that I could have had some of that guidance when I was younger. Who knows where my life would be today? But I sure wouldn't be here doing this discussion right now. Well, maybe I would, but it would be a different route to get here. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is we have to, the first step then is what? To just take a look at your life and decide, is this what you want or not? And if there's something about your life you don't want, then you got to decide, all right, what am I willing to do to create the kind of life I want? And if I am willing to do something, am I then willing to become more aware of what I need to do from an inside perspective, from a soul perspective? That's how I think we need to approach this. But I still don't have an answer for what is step one.
Well, I guess to me, it was picking up on the external symptoms that were, I guess, more heavy or negative, and actually noticing that rather than just marching on through them, denying it or making excuses, noticing why, starting to notice, and then, okay, why do I always feel this way? Why do I feel like I'm the underdog or behind life? Or, that was my journey, was these events that occurred to me that made me feel way less than. It was up to me. Do I want to notice them and start to do that difficult work of sorting and sifting, or am I just going to march through with an excuse or denial? So that, to me, that is step one. Each of us has been given everything we need. These things come to us for a reason, and we have the choice. I don't even know what the word is, not choice, but we can be open enough to noticing, or we can march on through them. That was my step one for moving into self-awareness.
So if I could just summarize what I just heard, what I heard you say was something was happening in your life that you weren't satisfied with. Mm-hmm. And you said, why is this happening to me? And you asked the question, and you became aware of the fact that you were asking the question. And that's what led you to start asking other questions, which then helped you to become more aware. So do you see what I'm saying? There was some kind of dissatisfaction that started the process for you.
Yeah.
Now, is that a requirement for everybody to become more aware? I don't know.
Again, I don't think so. There's not a right or wrong. That was my story.
Well, what about you, Stephanie? Does any of this resonate for you?
Well, what was kind of coming up for me, and I've pondered this before, so I like what Jenny shared. She said, I believe we are always aware. It's always there. We just choose whether or not to focus on it. It can be both an uncomfortable and beautiful place to reside, which is a lovely way to express that. Because I think about because we have this limited perception, and there's a lot of evidence, I don't know that this is true, that we see in the world only what we see. We see it all through our own filters. So we can really only see in the world what we have inside. So if that's the case, how the hell do we ever learn and grow? It's like there's some kind of magical something. Oh, maybe it's, as Jenny is suggesting, we always, on some level, in some part, in some way, as the infinite being we are, we do have awareness. And it's something happens, and we see. I don't know what that first step is. I really don't know either. It's kind of like we are aware of something. If we can look at what we're aware of and then ask, what else can I see? What else can I notice? It just opens this door for something, and it just begins to expand from there. That's my experience, has been that when I just stop and notice what I notice and go, oh, what else do I notice? What else can I see? I will see something else new. It seems to be the way of things.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a nice way of putting it. I like it. And I think we're all kind of saying the same thing,
Yeah.
in our own way, because, you know, we're limited by words when we try to communicate. And so we have to choose words that we think are going to convey the meaning that we want to convey, and it may or may not land quite right on the other person.
Are
This
you
is all-
saying that didn't land for you, David?
Not at all. I didn't say that.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Apparently I said something that triggered that thought in you, though.
I thought it was very funny, actually. I liked it.
But my point is that I agree with Jenny. I believe on our spiritual level, we are all 100% awareness. All of us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people don't believe that because they maybe haven't had the experience of it, because they've been so tied up in the ego mind part of their existence. And that is not their fault necessarily. We are brought up and taught to be that way. Our entire culture all around the world is all about stuffing feelings and ignoring the intuition and being scientific and being intellectual. All those things we worship. We create gods out of those things and deny the existence of spirit, of God, of universe. This is a problem everywhere, I think. But what I do believe is that the moment anyone, regardless of what their current belief system is, the moment they start the process of raising awareness, they become connected, reconnected, I will say, to their spiritual essence. The thing that they've been trying to separate from for so long. And the moment that happens, miracles start to occur. And it happened for me, I know that. And I'm sure it's happened for both of you, because I've seen the miraculous changes that have happened to you just in these 5 minutes we've been here.
Woohoo! You're right, David. It has. It's like there were so many times when I showed up for an experience to see something new, to learn something new, whether it was a yoga workshop or hiring a coach or going to a particular event or reading a book, with a willingness to just notice and have an experience and be open to something new. And wow, magical things can happen. Transformation happens right there, because I think that that's actually a part of what it's actually natural for us. The unnaturalness of it, it feels like what's natural is to be in ignorance and, caught up in all of this stuff, right? But actually the process of becoming aware is something that we all do from the time that we're born. We're just not necessarily tuned into it or doing it consciously. So when we just open that door, that's the hope that I have for someone who's just starting and maybe has never done this and has no idea where to begin. You've already begun.
Exactly. If you're here even on this show, just listening, you've already started the process. And that's a beautiful thing to remind people.
Yeah, that's true. There's not a special type of path to be self-aware. It can be in a yoga class, at a workshop, in this, on this platform today, as you're taking a walk or had a really messy event. It'll come however it's meant to come to you, as is meant to for your soul. Ooh, that's what I'm really learning, is however you are meant to hear those tappings from the universe.
I like that.
Yeah.
Tappings from the universe.
Universe. However, whatever those are meant to look like for you, if you are, give yourself permission to be curious about them. That was another thing for me. I had to give myself permission to walk into my curiosity, away from the ego mind saying, don't do that, be careful, all of the old well-worn thought patterns. I really had to lean into compassion and giving myself permission to start to move in a different way, and really be open to that.
I would love to ask for everyone who's listening, like, what helps you to become more aware? And if it's cool with you guys, I'll share a few things that have been really powerful for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe other people can learn from them. So really having a coach or a mentor and someone who I trust, who can see the things, they have a different perception right away, right? Like they're looking at me. They're not stuck in my head and in my thinking. They can help me to become more aware, both of the things that I'm doing that are working for me and the things that are not, of, what's really happening in my life. So if you have never had someone like that in your life, I would highly, highly recommend it. Another thing that I use is just the world around me, right? So we were talking about, without getting into too many technical details, like all the stuff in our lives, it has to physically, all this information, there are, in neurolinguistic programming, we say there are like 1 million bits of information coming at us every second. And our brains can only hold 128 bits per second. So what happens to the rest of it, right? Like it's got to go through this set of filters, our values, our beliefs, our experiences. So what we see is a product of all of that, our filtering.
Right.
So there's a lot that we don't see. However, what we do see is going to show us what's inside of us. So a way to become more aware of what's working for you or not working for you in your life is to think about, who are the people who really tick you off? If you think about them, write down 3 people that really irritate you, and then write down, what is it about them that drives you nuts? And then, if you're willing to be aware, with gentleness and love, ask yourself, where am I doing that? Where am I being that? It's not an easy thing to look at, but it is a way to go, oh my goodness, wow. Same thing is true about people we really admire. Like, think of 3 people you really admire and then describe, what do you love about them? What do you admire about them? Those are most likely traits that are within you that you haven't owned yet. And
not most likely,
yeah,
100% guaranteed.
Okay. So that's my personal belief, but I want people to see this and experience it for themselves. Yeah, if you're willing to look there, you will become aware of something new, and it can be quite powerful, really powerful.
So you're already taking us into the realm of shadow and unconscious, and I think that's great.
I can't help it.
I don't know if people are ready to dive into the deep end just yet, but I think it's awesome.
Here.
And no, that's a great practice. Just all you got to do, anytime you even think about something that you like or don't like about somebody, and even something that you're ambivalent about, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. You see something in somebody, it's because it's in you. That's all. And you cannot see what you don't already possess. It's what you were just saying about this whole filter system, right? I cannot experience from you something that isn't part of me.
I want to just be real and confess this right here, right now. So I have talked about this before, but one of the things that always used to drive me nuts about people, that I would judge people for like crazy, was they're fake. They're faking it. I don't buy it. They're not a real person. And as I started to look at that, I was like, where am I being fake? Where am I not real? And I realized all the places where I was not being the full expression of myself, changing myself for other people, pretending, downplaying, making myself smaller, or pretending that I was different, not being real in certain ways. Like, oh my God, it was so insidious and it was all over the place. And that's why the big fake thing was like flashing neon lights, like, hello. Every time you're pointing a finger at someone, right, you're pointing 3 at yourself, right? There's a reason they say that. And it's a really good reminder, like, oh yeah, oh, okay, I better look at me.
I can totally resonate with what you're saying, by the way. I've had similar experiences. I see people up on stage, someone like, I'll name a name. What the hell? Brendan Burchard.
Oh.
And I have so much judgment about that guy. But the truth is, I want to be just like him. Mm-hmm. I see he's got some brilliance in him that I refuse to acknowledge within myself. That's what you're talking about here. And I love that we're able to discuss this on this very first episode, because it tells me that we're going to go deep on every episode. And I love that.
Was there any doubt? Come on, man.
Well, I mean, I know you guys pretty well, but I'm still learning,
Yeah, actually, that is probably a huge piece. And let's think about it. It's not pleasant. It's the underbelly of being human is that we consciously and unconsciously look at others and form a judgment piece based on, again, you have to unfortunately reflect that back to you, like, oh, I can't stand that person, or oh, whatever. You're making these little pieces, and turn that mirror back around and okay, well, if I'm saying this about that person or what they're doing or handling, that's going to reflect something that I need to work on that I don't yet have, or I need to get, work on changing the ability of that. And yeah, the same for people that I really admire and look up to. Same thing, that I have that in me and I need to work to bring that to the surface. But yeah, the people thing, that was a big part in my life. It was so easy, group fitness, judging people, and they come in as, oh, they're not going to make it through this class, or they're out of shape, or oh wow, they are so fit. It was just so
okay, all right, good. So we are all on the same page here, and I want to put out an exercise right now because I think this is really, really important. So here's what I'm going to recommend for anybody who's live here now or who's watching the recording. For the next week, I want you to take a journal, and anytime you have a judgment about anybody, just write it down. You don't have to do anything about it right then and there, but if you notice that you have a judgment, write it down and don't let anybody see it. Later on, when you're private, go back into your journal and just take a look at your judgments. And just ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm really judging here? What am I judging about that I projected out onto that person? What am I judging about myself? And can I become more loving and gentle towards that part of myself? How can I heal if there's a wound in there underneath that judgment? If there's some reason that I'm judging myself, maybe I actually did something wrong. Maybe I actually did commit a crime or do something that nobody knows about. How can I heal whatever damage was done so that I myself no longer have to judge myself for it? Do you see the benefit of doing this? You're going to become so aware in that process. And you're going to connect to a compassion, I hope. That's the objective here, is to connect to a compassion for yourself so that you can stop judging. And when you uncover this truth about yourself, then you'll begin to see less and less of that energy showing up on other people.
Yeah.
And so you won't have that judgment showing up as often. So that would be my recommendation for people. And let that be a first step for you. You don't have to be in crisis for this to happen. Just start noticing your judgments and write them down. Simple.
Yeah. Well, and then reframe. Another thing for me, when I stumbled upon the mirroring of what I projected about others, making them inferior or superior, was, oh, it's really my own journey. I think for somebody that's brand new, that can be like a mind-blowing concept. I've got teenagers in my house, and they are just now learning the nuances of human emotions and relations. So I hear them. They cast quite a bit of judgment to posture themselves, to kind of try to find their place and fit in. So that this would be like, for them anyway, like, what are you talking about? No, they really do have that problem. I know, I'm true. So that's just something. I think you have to have a lot of self-love to own that. I think initially it could be a struggle, but I hold my hand up. That is, once that came to be truth, it is truly life altering, knowing that, yeah, I'm human. I am going to judge. Oh, what is it that I need to learn? Instead of responding to that rather than reacting with that love piece. But that's a unique concept, though, of knowing that if we're, unconsciously connecting others, like, oh, wait a minute, I need to learn from that.
Well, I'd like to just add on something to what you just said. The first point is your kid is probably right. What are you talking about? He really does have that problem. Just because I make a judgment of somebody doesn't mean it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? My judgment might be true, but it's always partly about me, regardless of how much truth there is about the other person. That's the reason that I brought this up as an exercise. It may or may not be true about the other person. It doesn't matter. What I want to bring awareness to is what we're judging and how we're judging and the words we're using when we make those judgments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but sometimes my judgments can be pretty damn nasty. You know, I hear this thought in my head, oh my God, what that guy is up. You know, and I'll be saying this, and it'll take me a moment before I realize it's going on, and I have to stop myself and say, what are you doing? You know, what is it that, you know, all right, maybe there's some truth in what you said about this guy, but you don't have to be that harsh, you know? So I try to be gentle with myself and at the same time say, fine, it's okay to have the judgment. Just be gentle with it, you know?
Last night I was driving somewhere and it was heavy rush hour traffic, and the cars I needed to turn against traffic, and cars were not willing to let in. So I immediately was like, these guys they're so selfish. They're
Exactly.
Whatever. They're all a bunch of selfish. I would never do that. And so I'm like, you know what? I need to get in. And so I just started to play with my lights. Like I call them the disco lights, flashing them on and off, and I kept driving. People stopped. I rolled my window down and waved. And I got through. I backed away from everyone. They're just so caught up in their own little web.
And you can imagine what they were judging about you as you were turning. Yeah.
Yep. Going through.
Who is this space cadet out there?
You know, the rush hour needing to turn here, but it turned out well because I realized that, I'm starting to get in that old yucky pattern. But
coming through the other side of some of that awareness that maybe wasn't so easy to look at first, like around the whole fake thing that used to plague me. And it's the things that we really react to. Those are the things, right? Like if we're neutral to it, like it's maybe not so much there. I don't really know. I don't know exactly what's there. I'm willing to look at pretty much anything. But now those very same people who I used to judge as the biggest fakes, they don't look that way to me anymore. Like it's almost like, is that the same person? Because I just don't see them. I've had this happen within 24 hours. I was at my NLP practitioner training, and I was judging the hell out of the presenters. You are so fake. This is such a show. It's like you're doing your song and dance up there. And we did a ton of transformational work. And literally the next day, I'm like, I don't see them that way at all. Like it was so different. It was mind-blowingly different. And
it's amazing how they changed overnight, huh?
Yeah, really.
Here's something really cool. The minute that you realize you are, casting that conscious or unconscious judgment because it's something you need to learn, that in itself is transformational.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I want to just acknowledge what Jenny said about being more judgmental of herself than anyone else. I think that's true for most of us. I honestly do believe that. I know I have a voice in my head that's constantly criticizing and telling me all the weaknesses that I have and so forth. It's not as bad as it used to be for me because I've done a lot of work and I've been able to aim that part of myself and reconnect. I mean, and I use that word reconnect a lot. Reconnect to my true nature and to the true essence of who I really am. But it takes time. It's something that requires, I think, not shutting down the ego as some teachers would like to say, but in my judgment, it requires ego love. That is to say, I need to love my ego and bring unconditional compassion and support and stuff to it and treat it like a little child that is just having a temper tantrum. And a little child that hasn't been getting the kind of attention that it should have gotten when I was young. And so consequently, that process of treating my ego mind like a little child and just listening without necessarily capitulating to what it wants, but just listening, I can just quiet it very easily. And when I quiet it, then we can start talking and negotiating and finding a way for things to work. So that's been my process that I've developed over the years, and it works really well for me, and I know it works for a lot of people that I've taught it to. So I just wanted to bring some awareness to that.
I like that. That's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Coming at it from a place of care and treating all parts of you with care and love rather than trying to swat them away or, deny it or get over, kick them to the curb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I found is the more I love my ego, and I don't mean love it in the sense of, just, smothering it or anything like that, but just have that unconditional love for my ego, the quieter it gets and the easier it is then for me to stay connected to my soul and to listen to my soul. I don't have that mind chatter going on as much anymore. So now my soul can speak and guide me in creating the kind of life I want, but only because I have done the work necessary to clear all the obstacles out of the way, so I have the ability to now listen more openly.
Yeah, and again, there goes that piece that I'm learning is moving from reaction to responding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, folks. We're at 5 minutes to the hour, and I want to know, first of all, is there anything that either of you wants to say before we close out?
I guess I'll add to what we've been saying the whole time is that the path of becoming an aware soul or self-awareness is a journey, right? Little things will come at you, as with me anyway, when they were meant to. You can certainly, if once you want that, or if you name it and want it, you can certainly further that by doing more work. But I believe with me, where I'm at now is as things were meant to unfold for me to become more and more, it was the timing, universal timing.
Right.
It was nothing that I couldn't press a button to say, gee, I should have done this in my 20s, or like the shoulding piece. So just be aware that I wish. No, I don't. This is exactly where I'm meant to be. So just give yourself, knowing that you are as you are meant to be, that it is a process that is ongoing every day, in every season of your beautiful life.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Nancy. And, just, I think to add to that, you can only see what you can see, but you can look. And if you keep looking, you will see something new.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you both for being with me today, and I want to thank all of you folks for being on the live presentation. And I want to remind you, we promised that we would give away fabulous prizes. So today I have a gift that I would like to give away. It's a free ebook, and it's called Life Mastery in a Nutshell. And what I would like to do is give it to the first person who can correctly tell me the color of my brown shirt. Whoever types it first.
I have my fingers on the keyboard, man. I feel that's cheating. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, that was no. How about a hint? Come on, people. I want to give this away, but I need to get someone to type the color in. Come on.
Oh, Jeffrey.
Brownish. Okay, that's close enough. I'll take it, Jeffrey. You win. I will check with you later, and I will send you a copy of my ebook. Thank you both so much again for being here today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the live presentation.
Wait, we're coming back. We're coming back.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be back. We're going to be coming back next month. The second Tuesday of the month. I don't know what date that is, but our title is called The Myths and Gifts of Acceptance. And it's going to be a really powerful conversation, just like this one. And we'll have more prizes to give away. So I really hope you'll join us. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to stop the recording now, and bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.